Hey everybody, it's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Gramercy Theater again, and today we are here with the doom metal legends Paradise Lost. Thank you, Aaron, for being here.
My pleasure. No worries.
Yeah. So the latest record is Medusa, which came out back in 2017. So, it's been out for a year now. How has the record cycle been this far in the making of Medusa?
It's been really good. It's been quite an extensive European tour behind it, and a few sort of flying shows. Festival season this year as well has also been great, but it's been really well received, on the back of The Plague Within, the album before, which also did pretty well, so feel pretty lucky after 15 albums to be still been a plod around doing it,
Yeah. Was this meant to be conceptually like a follow-up to A Plague Within, or did you kind of want this record to stand out?
No, I think we never plan anything like that, really. Even when the record's been written, halfway through, there's no real, big plan for anything. It's very much written about the time, and what we found generally over the years, some of our album cycles come in 2-album pairing. Now that is annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why we got these.
But in fairness, usually when we do something like The Plague Within, it's how heavy that sounds live, especially Beneath Broken Earth, which is one of the most miserable doom songs we've ever written. And I love playing it live. It's great. That song especially, I think that led us into how the next record was going to be sounding. I think, a lot more, sort of slower pace, more miserable if we can get more miserable. But they seem to always come in pairs, like Icon and Drac Times, then 1 Second and Host, and they always seem to come in pairs. But it's not with a particular plan. It's just that we like how the albums sound live, and then that seems to be a wave that pushes on for the next one.
Yeah, and now that this is your 15th album, at this point, does Paradise Lost, because I know that you also rarely have lineup changes in the band, so at this point, is it fair to say you have like a formula and a template that you always follow, or has the making of every record been like its own experience?
They're all very much their own experience, but I think after 30 years, we're kind of, Paradise Lost is Paradise Lost, if you know what I mean. I think we've done quite a bit of experimenting in the past, and I think sometimes you throw yourself a curveball creatively. I think you can almost recenter yourself to what the core of what you are, I think. And I think in recent years we've been working back towards, where we see ourselves nicely balanced, I think, I mean, The Plague Within, the album before last, had a variety of tone and sound, speed, tempo, etc. on it, and a little bit of all of our history scattered throughout it, and I think between that and Medusa, we've kind of, Paradise Lost is Paradise Lost. I mean, we kind of never try to sound like anyone else anyway, but it's we're very much comfortable in our own shoes is the way you could put it. But there again, you never know, because sometimes we get itchy feet, and the music's got to be fresh and exciting for you to play, because if you're going to be touring it for 2 years, you can't be playing something that you're bored with quickly. So we've always written albums for our own pleasure. We're just quite lucky that other people seem to have liked it.
That's always a plus.
Yeah. So we're quite humbling, that kind of scenario. So it's been pretty cool, really.
Does it get harder to put a set list together with so many albums in your discography when playing live?
Yeah, I mean, even on this tour, we've got we've got a few songs that are rotating on different nights. So I mean, last night we played Ember's Fire. Tonight we're going to play True Belief instead. So there's a few songs we're swapping around. We did Eternal last night. Tonight we're playing Gothic. So there's a few that we're swapping around to just. I mean, I know sometimes if somebody will be like, no, they're not playing Forever Failure tonight. But it's like, yeah, I know, but it's kind of to keep it fresh. Because you do get people who travel, to shows as well. They'll go to a few. I mean, that happens maybe a little bit more in Europe. But we try to because you'll have people who come and see 8 shows across 4 countries in Europe, and they're like, you don't want to give them the same exact set every night, So, but it's difficult, yeah, because we must have nigh on 200 songs, 180 songs to choose from, and it is quite hard. But I mean, some songs almost choose themselves. There's a bunch of songs which almost choose them. They're potentially around a set list always, but then we like to throw a couple of new ones in every now and then, or one we haven't played for a while. We've been playing Mouth again recently, not on this tour and not on the US tour, but we've been playing that again recently, and we hadn't played that for about 10 years or something. So it's quite nice to bring an old one back in occasionally, you know.
Yeah.
So we do like, as much as anything to keep it exciting for us as well.
Yeah, definitely. Now, a lot of people have referred to you guys as like doom metal and that sort of category, but like as somebody who's reviewed so many doom metals, and this is the perfect background
Yeah, I
music
know.
for that question.
Here we are in the darkness.
Oh, that was anticlimactic. But,
There we go.
But I was always curious because they refer to you guys and My Dying Bride and Opeth, Catatonia as doom metal, but then people have referred to bands like Neurosis or
Yeah.
Sleep as doom metal. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. I mean, normally I think it's a band with like a 27.5 minute long song
Yeah.
that makes it doom metal, but what makes something defined as doom metal?
Do you know what? It's miserable music, I think. But I think we come from, you know, in the north. I'm sure it's very much the same in the States. It's like we come from an area where there's a lot of rain and things like that, and it seems to be good at making goth music and doom music and things like that. So I think doom is quite a broad term, as you just, you know, said, with all the variety of bands you can have underneath that umbrella. But we've been called all sorts over the years. I mean, gothic metal, gothic doom classicists. But my favourite ever was Malcolm Dome. He used to be at Kerrang in the 80s and 90s, and he once called us gondoliers of gloom. That's fucking great, that.
How come you didn't make an album titled that?
I know. Somebody's going to use that eventually, you know. But that to me was, I remember reading it in the magazine in the newsagents, and I was just like, man, that is brilliant, you know. So it's still my favourite, but I don't know. I think pigeonholes are less relevant these days because there's so many bands that are pushing the boundaries of each one of those pigeonholes. It's quite difficult to tie them down, really.
Definitely. Now, in the eyes of Paradise Lost, being that you have various song lengths, how do you know when a song is finished? Is there like a pinnacle moment that determines it?
There must be.
What?
There must be, yeah, because it's like all of a sudden you go, yeah, that's done, and then you move on to the next one. But I mean, Nick and Greg do pretty much the writing these days, and I think they do a lot of batting forwards. It's like Greg will have an idea, or, you know, Nick will have a lyric or something, and then they bat it back, and then it's like, all right, what about this? And there's a lot of batting between the two before it gets hammered into shape, you know.
Yeah. Now, I forgot where specifically in the UK you guys are from. It's like northern, right?
Yeah, it's a county called Yorkshire.
Okay.
But the band was formed in a town called Halifax.
Okay.
You know, and we actually played like a 30th anniversary show 2 weeks ago in Halifax. We played basically a pub in Halifax at like 140 capacity because we'd actually never played our hometown. We played sort of Bradford. Well, there's a lot of towns nearby like Bradford and Leeds that we've played quite a lot, but for some reason we just never played Halifax. So we thought for the 30th anniversary, let's play a tiny place in Halifax and just have fun. You know, and it was a really cool show actually.
Yeah. Well, I thought that maybe because My Dying Bride kind of came from like a similar region as you guys.
No, exactly the same. Because I mean, I knew Az from Aaron from My Dying Bride. I knew him when we were like 17, 16-year-old.
Wow.
Because we used to go to the same rock nightclub. You know, we literally are. I mean, they live in Halifax, but they were a couple of them guys from Bradford, which is like 7 miles away, the next town. So it's pretty close, really. But yeah, we all used to go to the same rock bars, so we've known each other for years.
So was there a scene kind of like in the Yorkshire home area that like maybe Paradise
I don't know.
Lost?
I think we had some really cool rock bars and things, but obviously there was Peaceful Records that signed us, and then we sort of played our first gig sort of June the 23rd, like 1988. We'd only been going for 2.5 months. We were booked to play 30 minutes. We had 15 minutes of music, so we played a couple of songs. We played one song twice. We attempted a cover version, and then Nick slagged off the audience for 5 minutes. So it was kind of like pretty cool. But there was a lot of things going on at the time. There's a lot of grindcore and crust music and stuff. So it was kind of the scene was just evolving really at that time. But yeah, but like I say, it's like goth music came from up there, and you know, it's pretty good weather, rainy weather that makes great miserable music, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because like the UK, obviously the UK as a whole is just like, I mean, with Sabbath coming from there, and
Yeah.
Iron Maiden and Priest, and then you know you have like a lot of modern day bands obviously fairly different from you guys, but like Dragon Force, Bullet for My Valentine.
Yeah.
That it almost seems like there's always many different styles of heavy music that comes out of the UK.
Yeah, it's just good. I think, but there again, the US has a lot. I mean, Finland seems to have a lot of bands. Sweden, the northern part of Europe, especially, seems to be very good at making metal bands. In particular. But it's, I don't know. I don't know whether I don't know if it's the weather or an attitude. Yeah. I think
Well, you guys have so much metal up there. I think that's why you guys are the happiest people, despite not getting much sun.
Yeah. But we do get some, but a bit more now. Global warming and everything like that. But it's. I don't know. Especially, I think why a lot of bands are super technically great in like Sweden, for instance, because when it snows, there's no reason to go outside, so they just sit at home, fucking rehearsing.
Well, it's funny because here in America, like I've noticed that a European band, regardless of what style it is, whether it's At the Gates or whether it's, Dragon Force, you name it. Like, European metal here seems to get put on a pedestal, I've noticed. Really? Yeah, so, yeah. And I mentioned that to Stefan from Obscura, and he actually said in Europe it's the opposite. If your band's from America, people are just...
Yeah, I think it's a glamour of what's on the other side, isn't it, I suppose, yeah. Whereas, in the UK, especially, American bands are seen as a lot more desirable or glamorous than, almost unattainable, because when they come over, you're like, yes. I was the same when I was a kid, when American bands came over, I wanted to see them, even though we had some great British bands. But I think it's the same both sides, isn't it? The grass is always greener on the other side,
Definitely. But sometimes the clouds are always darker.
Yeah.
Now, as I said before we started rolling, I thought we could do a little bit of gear talk.
Yeah, sure.
So I know that you're more on the rhythm guitar section, so what is your weapon of choice to get the sound?
I'm an ESP endorser at the minute. I've got a pair of E2 Eclipses, which have, I've had them for about 3 years. Nothing ever goes wrong with them. They're tough as boots, they really are.
ESP seems to be the go-to for everybody now.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a number of endorsees over the years. I was a Gibson guy for a long time. I was with Mayonnaise for a long time as well. But ESP, I rang them up when I was kind of looking for a new deal, and the guys were like, instantly, what do you want? It's like, yeah, we want to help. And whenever you talk to them, it's like I'd be on the phone for ages just talking about guitars. I'm a bit of a nerd, so I love doing that, And I don't know, I just feel like a really comfortable fit. I've got bare knuckle pickups in it, which I absolutely love. They're a British company. Their pickups are superb, and you can ring. Yet again, they've rang me up abroad, and we just end up talking for hours. So yeah, it's really cool. And I'm actually severely allergic to like nickel and a bunch of metal. So I use Elixir strings. They're coated, but they're like 12. We're tuned down to A on 7 strings, so it's like A, D, G, C, F, A, D. And so I use 12 to 68. My low A is a 68. It's great because when I hit it, it doesn't go wah 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 wah. It's actually bang.
The elixirs are very stiff. I feel like. I feel like if you need to play music that's very precise, because you guys have a lot of clean sounding into it. Yeah. Like if your music is very distorted driven, you could probably get away with messing up a note. But when you need to be very precise, I think Opeth is in a similar situation.
But no, I mean for me in particular, they've been brilliant because it meant obviously they don't affect my allergy, which is something that I don't think they want to advertise in particular, because a lot of people are allergic to nickel. It's like quite a common allergy, but yeah, no, for me it's great. I mean, I used stainless steels for a bit, but I still had a little bit of a problem. But since I've used elixirs, I've had no problem. But they don't ever want to say that these are anti-allergy strings, because that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. You know what I mean? But do you know what? Beyond that, they stay bright for a lot longer than most strings I've used, because you just wipe them down and they sound great. But and I keep a fairly simple setup. I mean, on a lot of flying shows, I'll either be using a Line 6 HD 500X or the Kempers. We've been using Kempers for a number of years as well. Just for traveling, it's easy,
Yeah.
A lot easier, And then, you've got the consistency of sound, because sometimes you'll go to a tour or you go to a festival, and the rental amps, you might spec a particular amp, but we all know, transformers can change how an amp sounds, whether they've looked after the valves or whether the valves need matching better. A lot of things can change, so I like to keep it fairly clean. I don't use a wireless system. I don't know, I'm very simple, whereas Greg's got in-ears and wireless things, and he's a famous endorser. But it's, Yeah, I like to keep the less things to go wrong, the better.
Yeah, I think the most important concept of any amp is to just simply plug it in and play.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You know, I can't imagine how. I do not envy Tom Morello's guitar tech at all with all those pedals he has.
I know, yeah, it's too much. Yeah, for me, there's too much to go wrong. I'm quite a safety guy in that way. You know, literally, I've got a spare cable running to the front, and I'm quite happy with that. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, going back to the strings, I mean, I've seen some people's guitars, they haven't changed the strings in a while, and I'm getting tetanus just looking at that thing.
Yeah.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
Hey, my pleasure.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
We've been waiting for this tour since it was.
Do you know
first
what?
announced.
I can't believe it's taken us 30 years to do our own. First time ever doing our own US tour. I mean, we've done always support. But yeah, no, it's been pretty cool.
Well, I
And
mean,
I'm looking forward to New York, obviously, because it's always been great for us. Even when, you know, I mean, one time we played here and they opened the doors when we went on. So it's like we've had that before, you know.
oh God, that's the worst.
Yeah,
That's the
but
worst.
you know, it's kind of New York's always been very kind to us, so I'm really looking forward to tonight.
Definitely, we love you guys here. Just before we go, obviously, you know, Medusa's now has been out for over a year now, a little bit.
Yeah, it was September last year, I think
Okay,
it was. Yeah.
great. So,
Yeah.
you know, now that, you know, 2018 is coming to an end, can we be expecting any new music, or is there any tours coming
Yeah,
up?
I think we've got bits and pieces we're going to be doing next year, but I think, yeah, we'll be winding down towards writing a new record. As to when, it'll be next year. We'll be writing it next year, but it just depends on releases and everything. So, see how we go. But yeah, looking forward to getting. I love it when you're in the studio and putting it together. It's great. I mean, playing live is my absolute favorite thing. I love it, and I always say if anybody enjoys the show half as much as I do, they've had a good night. You know. But yeah, putting things together, seeing everything layered up, even after 15 albums, it's still really exciting.
Yeah, well, I'd imagine, especially for the style you guys play, playing it in a studio or a practice space is just a completely different experience playing it live, especially seeing you guys.
Yeah.
So, but
I hope you enjoy tonight, man.
Oh, definitely will.
Yeah.
Definitely will. Everybody, we are here with
Thank
Aaron
you.
of Paradise Lost. Pick up Medusa if you haven't already. New Paradise Lost coming soon, and catch them on their headlining tour in the U.S. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.